So apparently my parents talk about a lot of heavy stuff on their podcast. Listen at your own discretion. Like, comment, subscribe, and share or whatever. Anyways, welcome to Sobriety.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm Ryan. This is Jess. We are sober as fuck. Before we get to today's show, I do want to remind everybody to please make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, share the podcast.
Review.
We're on every platform out there. You can find us. Anywhere you like your podcast, you can find us.
Yeah, any streaming platform.
Anyone
Go
out
on there. Search it.
Also, check out our website, safpodcast.com, safpodcast.com. You can check out our pretty badass merch Jess has come up with, as we're wearing today, if you're watching us. Pretty fancy.
It is fancy. I'm going to wear it to go get my nails done in a little while.
That's right. Oh, I forgot you're going to do that today.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And if anybody asks, I'll be like, it's a podcast that my husband and I have. Can you guess what it's about?
That's right. I love it.
If they go, oh, is it a sober podcast? I'll be like, no, it's about native trees.
That's right.
Why would you think that? Why would you think that? Weirdo.
Also, on our website, we have our challenges. We did January. We've done February. We're going to do every month, basically, this whole year, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And you are actually handling March, which is pretty awesome. It's going to be a mental health March challenge per Jess, which is really cool because that's something that you kind of specialize in, I would say.
Specialize, like like I know what I'm doing, like I'm a professional. That's your terminology is
I guess what I'm saying is like you've learned a lot, I would think.
Sure.
You're sober. You've been sober for 600, probably 30, 50 days.
Okay, listen, I understand the day count. I really do. Like I get, like we count the days, but it gets to a point where it's like when people tell you their kid's age in months. I'm like, they're 142 months. So
bottom line, you're coming up on 2 years
in June.
Yes. So you're coming up on 2 years. Is that better?
Yep.
So what I'm saying is, I guess you've had some time into this. You've been therapy. You were doing this before you were sober.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing therapy. So your mental health has drastically changed.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's gotten a lot better since you've been sober. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? What entails honestly, your mental health, everything you've been through, being sober now, what's been the big change? What was the big turning point in your life?
That's a loaded question. Okay. So what I'll say first off, right, is when you say things like, not you, but I'm talking like, general you, not you specifically you. Okay. But it's like, my mental health is improved. That, that's kind of a blanket statement that we say, just like in, recovery, because it's very hard to articulate the evolution of yourself on that path, right? Because It really is comparing apples and oranges. The way I see it is like, the fundamentals, the baseline of me has not ever changed. And this does not apply to everybody. This is just me, right? So I've always been very headstrong about certain things, okay? Like morals, politics, social issues, stuff like that, okay? And I've always been very loud and proud about things. However, my mental health I never thought of myself as someone who struggled with mental health related issues until I was an adult, which I know is very common. Okay. And I, when I went into it, I started I'm going to say that I really, really started my mental health journey about 5 years ago.
Right.
Because it was about maybe just shy of a year after my brother got sober. And so a lot of that was just recognizing that there were certain aspects of my life that I was not going to change, right? So I didn't want to get divorced even though you were still drinking. I wanted to maintain relationships with people in my life, even outside of you, even if I knew that those relationships currently were toxic. And I think the best thing that my therapist at first told me was, I'm not here to be like, oh, you need to leave that person or you need to cut that person off. Like, that is a decision that you make individually. So the first therapist I saw just approached it with, okay, so tell me kind of where you're at and what you're looking for. And so she kind of repeated back to me and said, okay, what I'm hearing is you have a strained relationship with your husband for whatever reason, but you do not want to get divorced. You want to stay in that relationship even if he does not get sober, right? And I said, yes, that's true for many, many reasons. And you want the same thing with these other relationships. So she's like, okay, so then, and I've touched on this before, but she's like, okay, well, then you have to understand that people can only affect you if you allow them to, which again it sounds so just simple, but it's
It
not.
always sounds simple,
Right,
but it never
right.
is. Yeah.
But what it essentially is pulling you out of that victim mentality, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't want to do X, Y, and Z, but you know there needs to be a change, then these are the steps that you need to take to get there. So I started that, and with that, I was diagnosed with ADHD and OCD and binge eating disorder and all of those things.
Yes.
Right, all the acronyms. And so even though the person I was 5 years ago, fundamentally, all of those things are still true about me today, the way that I observe situations and process information is completely different. So in the beginning, it was, I'm affected by everything around me. And now it is, of course, I'm affected by everything around me, but that doesn't mean that everything deserves a reaction.
Right.
Or even a response. Right. So I think the misconception for a lot of people is, and we hear this a lot on the podcast and with meetings and things like that, like, this person is doing this and they don't understand how I feel and how can they do this, and knowing that I do, that they're doing this to me and then I do this, and it's this circle or like seesaw back and forth. And ultimately, and it sounds simple, but it's really hard, is realizing that it is not about doing something in order to change someone else's trajectory. And I know that we say that a lot, but it's true. And it takes a really, really long time and a lot of work and practice to get there. So I did that work, did that practice in the midst of your drinking, in the midst of the chaos, right?
Yep.
And you got sober, my brother got sober, and I, by all social and like surface accounts, I'd never had an issue with alcohol. Like, I was not a daily drinker, weekly drinker, monthly drinker. I could order one drink and not finish it. I like all of the check boxes for you don't have a drinking problem.
Right.
I checked every single one of them. I was a very responsible moderator. Of course, when I was young, I would drink and drove a couple times. Everybody has. Don't say that you haven't, because yes, you fucking have. But I was not a drinker and driver. Like, I was the one that would be like, we're getting an Uber. Like, I did all the stuff. Okay. But it just kind of dawned on me one day. We were on vacation and I ordered like a pina colada and my stomach hurt for 2 days. And I was just sort of like, you know how you have those like introspective moments where you just look around and you're like, oh my gosh, like, this is where my life is.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even a light bulb. It's just sort of like an observation of where you're at, and that like, oh my gosh, I'm on this vacation. My husband is sober. And we've talked about this too. Like, I never truly had a vacation until you got sober, because every trip, every vacation before then would start off fun, but it was always babysitting.
Right.
So I was like, oh my gosh, like we're at the beach and my husband's sober and my daughter's having fun and my brother is sober, and like, this is amazing. And I had this like horrible bellyache and headache from drinking. And I think I only had 1 or 2 drinks. It wasn't even a hangover. And I thought, I'm still tethering myself to this thing. This, for whatever reason, this thing that has about destroyed everybody and everything in my life. So I decided, well, actually, I think I told you, I was like, I think I'm going to take a break from drinking. And you
Yeah,
were
you
like,
did.
at first you were like, oh, well, you don't have to do that for me. You know, you were always big on, if you want to drink, and you're like this in most life, right? Like at most things, you're like, I don't really give a flying fuck what everybody else is doing. I'm doing this.
I'm worried about myself.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't have liked if I came home hammered, but at the same
Right.
time, you were like, I don't, it doesn't bother me.
Yes.
Right. And I said, no, that's not it. I'm like, every time I drink these days, like I get a headache and a bellyache. I'm getting older. Like, I just think I need to take a break from it, you know, and you're not drinking. And so, you know, whatever. And then months and months went by. And I think you were the one that looked at me and you were like, when was the last time you had a drink? You were like, I just kind of thought of about this. And I hadn't thought about it. It was like 6 months.
It was like
you were
6
like,
months.
you said, Jess, do you realize that you've been sober for 6 months? And I was like, no, I didn't. I really hadn't thought about it. And you were like, yeah. And you looked at me and you were like, that's like a really big deal. And I said, but is it? You know, because I'm not counting days.
I think it was more of a big deal to me just
Right.
because I knew what it takes. I know what it takes to get to 6 months, and I've seen it, and I've seen a lot of people go through that. So for me, seeing you do that, I was like, fuck yeah. I mean, you put in the work every day. But did you?
But the thing about it is it wasn't a big deal to me because it didn't feel like I was doing any work.
Right.
You know, I was like, okay. Because I think I had told you, even like when we first met, I said, if somebody told me you are never allowed to have another drink of alcohol, it is illegal. And if you take one sip of it, it'll kill you. I would have been like, okay.
Right.
Like, easiest thing in the world. So, you know, we start this podcast and, you know, I joined Reframe because you've been on Reframe and you're like, you know, they have neurodivergent meetings, and you were just like, I think you should join. Like, even if you don't participate, like, it's just good. You meet people and we're doing the podcast, like, you know, be part of it. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I join and Reframe is fantastic. So what I'm about to say, I don't want it to be misinterpreted like I'm saying something negative about Reframe, because it has nothing to do with that. But I was like, oh, I don't know that this is my space. And I told you that. I was like, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to renew the Reframe app. You're like, why? What's wrong? I said, nothing. It's fantastic. But I don't know that like this is the space for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I really had sort of an identity crisis even with the podcast. I was like, I just feel kind of alone over here on an island because my issues are more mental health related. And yes, like alcoholism, addiction, however you identify, being a drunk, you know, that's your identifier is. You're like, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just a drunk. Which, you know, whatever. But I was like, how do I go on? And people are like, oh my gosh, like you've been sober for however many days. What'd you do? And I'm like, I just put the drink down and didn't think about it again. And there are people whose like lives have been destroyed. I mean, seriously, like not even joking, like people who have lost their children, or people who have like, you know, people have died, or just horrible, horrible things that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And so it felt like I was minimizing those struggles for me to be like, oh, hey, yeah, like I didn't even realize I was sober until like my husband pointed it out, you know, like, so I had this big identity crisis. And there was even a point where I think I looked at you and I said, you know, sorry, I have a hair in my mouth.
Say, you need a moment.
Sorry. No, it's just a hair. It's annoying. Okay. To continue.
Yes.
I was like, you know, I think the podcast should just be about you. I'll add some, humor, but I was like, I really think I'm going to take a step back because these are people with real struggles and issues and problems, and they're pouring their heart out. And I don't want to minimize their experiences by when people are like, I would feel guilty when people would tell me like, congratulations. And if you go on our Instagram page to this day, I never really post about me or my days or anything because I'm like, I feel like it's nothing to celebrate. Now, it took me a really long time to realize that is part of my mental illness.
Exactly.
Is like, my Brian or mine and our therapist would be like, and I told him that, and he said, okay, but just because your situation looks different doesn't mean that it's not worth celebrating. Like, he was like, you feel like you have to like wear scars or battle wounds in order to like get some badge or medal saying that you deserve to be there. He's like, why do you feel that way? And and we go deep into the therapy stuff. But he was like, you don't have to justify anything at all. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. But he's like, that's all related to your ADHD, your, binge eating. Cause that's the thing that I struggle with the most is my binge eating. Right. And when I say struggle, I mean, like, I haven't quite kicked that one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll be completely honest and transparent. Like, I would love to sit on here and be like, I have my eating disorder in check, but that is like farthest from the truth.
Right.
Right. So anybody listening, it's so easy to see us and be like, we're sober and we're doing all these things. But like,
we're just like everybody else. We all have our struggles.
Well, and I still am battling a very real thing that I haven't managed to, it's the equivalent of someone, being on reframe and still drinking, right? Like, I'm not doing it on purpose, but even you'll say, babe, are you okay?
But I will say I have seen a big transition since, really since we've been on the podcast in you, especially because as we have, we've had so many guests on and we have so many guests where you've at the end when we're done and, we've said our goodbyes and everything with who's with us, you've looked at me and like, wow, they're kind of like, that's kind of like my story, or you really related with a lot of our guests that once you found out that, holy shit, they didn't have a rock bottom, because everybody's story is different. Everybody's recovery is completely different, I think.
What happened was, in the midst of feeling all those things, we had a few, like 2 or 3 guests on back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not think that this is like gender specific, but for whatever reason, it was women on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
And moms. And I think that it's just because of that mommy wine culture. But I do not think that this is something that is isolated to women.
Right.
But they would say, same thing as me. I didn't really have an issue. I didn't have a rock bottom, but I was doing things like I was still like taking shots and nursing my baby. And I'd wake up the next day and be like, oh my God, I feel terrible for that. Or I would go to my book club and I really didn't want to drink because I just wasn't in the mood and I was tired, but everybody was having wine. And so I had a glass of wine because I just didn't want to be the only one not having a glass of wine.
Kids' birthday parties.
Right. And so, and it wasn't, the story was not always, I said I wasn't going to drink and then I had one drink and then I got blacked out. Sometimes it was, I just walked around with a glass of wine and sipped on it and didn't even really drink it. And then it dawned on me like, why do I even feel the need to have this glass of wine in my hand? And that really resonated with me, because I was like, why? So for me, and again, I've said this on the podcast, but you asked, so I am going to bring it up again. I began to view alcohol as an abuser.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say an abuser, I don't necessarily mean an abuser to me.
To you, yeah.
So the comparison I use, and like I said, I'll say it again for anybody who's new, is imagine that you are friends with a couple, okay? And they look like the perfect couple. They do all the right things, they're happy-go-lucky, all that stuff. And then you find out that one of them is severely abusing the other one. And you would never think it. And this happens. Like, this is a real life scenario that happens all the time. They're beating them, they're verbally abusing them, whatever it is, they're severely abusing them. And then finally, the other one is like, this is what's happening. I'm leaving. I just wanted you to know, right? And you're best friends with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remain friends with the abuser? And I know that some people might say, well, there's two sides to every story and all that. So this is not a what's right or wrong. But again, it goes back to what I said before. The base of me has always been the same as far as what I believe fundamentally. And one thing that I will give myself a compliment and credit to is there are certain things that I do not waver, no matter who it is or what the circumstance. And there is no world, no universe, no planet that I would ever be friends with someone who is abusive. No, and you know that.
Sure,
I don't care who they are. And so I decided that's what alcohol was. It was this thing that in therapy is what helped me get there. It didn't have to directly hurt me in order for it to hurt me, right? Like, why do I want to remain tethered to something that took people I loved and just literally twisted their minds and almost killed them? I don't want to be tethered to that. So that is why I decided to quit drinking, because I was like, alcohol has done nothing but hurt the people I care about. Something doesn't have to hurt or abuse me for me to recognize I don't want it in my life. Now, with that said, we are not missionaries for sobriety. I do not go out into the world and be like, oh, you drink? Alcohol's bad for you. I don't do that, right? Because that's just judgmental, and live your life, okay? But that was a personal decision that I made, and I have never regretted it. And I would say probably around, I can't remember when I had this conversation with my brother and you, maybe after the first of the year, beginning of 2025. I looked at you and I had called my brother and I said, I don't think I'm ever going to drink alcohol ever again. And you both kind of said the same thing. You were like, that's great, but why? I said, and I went into the dissertation that I just did. And I said, I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm not going to drink ever again. And you both were like, that's a very big statement. There are people who are in recovery, who have been in recovery for 10, 15, 20 years, and they still don't say never. And I said, I am never going to take a sip of alcohol ever again. And I'm going to say it out loud now, because that whole identity crisis where I was like, I don't belong here, it was so easy for me, that became my superpower.
Yeah.
I started to reframe. Do you see what I did there?
Yes.
Do you see what I did there? Okay. I started to reframe the way that I saw it. And I'm like, why do I feel bad that it was easy for me to give up alcohol? That's fucking incredible. That's my superpower. If it's that easy for me to give up, then there's no reason for me to go back. There's no reason at all. So I stopped feeling that way. And then in this episode has not aired yet, but we have Kevin from Reframe coming up.
Yeah.
Just a little sneak peek. That'll be coming out soon. But he works for Reframe. And after we filmed, I talked to him about it, because I was like, you work for Reframe, you're in recovery. He has all the same mental health stuff as me. And I told him that. And he was like, get on Reframe and share your story.
Share your story.
Like, he's like, I understand, and that's really great. He goes, but you can't worry so much about what everybody's doing to the point that you don't, like, you're kicking yourself out.
Yeah.
He's like, and even if someone feels like you're minimizing them, that's because they're in their recovery and they're still working through things. Like he's like, I'm sure there are tons of people who feel the same way and probably haven't spoken up for the same reason. So when you said my mental health has changed, it's a loaded question. I know that was a long description, but it is.
Yeah, I get it.
And I think too, you feel like if you're getting sober or you are going to therapy, that there's going to be this light bulb moment and it's going to be like, oh, I get it now. And for me, that's not how it's been. For me, the realization has been, it's not that you ever really feel better. It's not that you get some divine strength. It's that you learn to listen to yourself and pay attention to the things that your body and mind are telling you. And you simply just look at it and analyze and process information differently. It's more of a knowledge is power. And that's the thing that I think is hard for people. And you talk about this with like the pink cloud, right? Even in recovery, you get on that momentum. It's like when you're working out.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, you lose weight real fast and you buff up and you're like, I'm fucking sexy jack man. And then you stale.
Yeah.
Or you stop and you're like,
well, now what?
Where's that dopamine, And really what that is your body saying, this is where we feel good. This is where we feel healthiest. So rather than still chasing, like maintain this and put everything into that. And recovery and mental health is the same thing. It's not that I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, do you remember when I used to have OCD? Like that was crazy. No, like I still have that,
You deal with it so much. The difference in how you deal with things now is night and day.
Well, it's also too because I can stop myself, or like even on days where I'm struggling, I can look at you and be like, my anxiety is like really bad today.
That's been a huge difference is you noticing when shit's about to go down, with you mentally, and you speak it. And I've learned to do the same thing. A lot of it is because of you. Because I've watched you do it where you say, listen, honey, I'm going through something right now. I need 30 minutes. Or, we need to talk about this later when I have the mental capacity or the bandwidth to talk about it. Things like that have made a huge difference in, whether or not we talk to each other for an evening.
Well, yeah, because, and the thing too
like
is,
that.
Just because you're struggling doesn't give you allowance to be an asshole, right? So that's another part of it is if I say, hey, I'm having a bad day. I'm in a bad mood. I'm on edge. Like I'm a little snippy.
Don't poke the fucking bear.
Yeah. Like don't, it's not your fault. Like if I snap at you, it doesn't make it right for me.
Yeah.
But just understand that I'm having a hard time today. So just because, we like to pick and play and all that. Like today may not be the day that like you come and pinch my ass while I'm unloading the dishwasher because I might actually punch you in the nuts. Right. Like, and it's funny, but it's true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
used to, we never had those moments.
What would happen is we would push it down. We didn't understand what was going on and then it would just explode.
Yes.
So now it's more, I speak it. This is what I'm going through. And then from there, honestly, you can receive that or you cannot receive that. Right? Like I can't, and that's another thing. Me, like when you tell someone, hey, this is how I'm feeling and this is what I'm going through, you tell them so that you hold yourself accountable and you recognize and you make it tangible, but you don't have any control over that, whether that person gives a shit or not. Because I'll be completely honest, even in your like first year of sobriety, when I would tell you those things, you really did not hold it. You were just kind of like, whatever, and went on. And it wasn't because you were being an asshole. It's because you were still working through stuff.
Yeah, I was getting through. I was doing me for that.
Well, that's what I'm saying is you would be like,
everything
okay.
else was just kind of like, okay, that's going to go on the back burner.
Yeah, and you would even come to me later and be like, hey, I've kind of not I've gotten so stuck in my sobriety, my working out that I realize I haven't really left space for you, and that's not fair. And again, that's okay. That's part of it, right? Like, we struggle with these things, but the transformation that you see, it's not that my brain has changed. It's that I know what's going on now.
Right.
Whereas before it would be like, why the fuck are you crying? And I'm like, I don't know, and I didn't, or you used to accuse me of fake crying a lot of the times because it just seems so night and day.
Like yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, here come the waterworks, make me feel so sorry for you. But then yesterday, our daughter went to her very first high school dance, and trigger warning for grief, but I miss my mom and am saddest in the happiest moments, like the moments that life is so wonderful. That's when I grieve her the most because she's not there, and I'm like, I want her there. So when she was all dressed up and she's with her friends and she looks so fucking beautiful, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to be this just amazing person. I cried a little because I thought, I really wish my mom was here to see this. I really fucking wish she was here. And you looked at me and you were like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, because I was, right? I was okay.
Yeah.
And then, I didn't want to say anything in front of Lily because I didn't want to ruin her evening. But after we dropped her off, I was like, I just really miss my mom. I really wish that she could see Lily and see who she's growing up to be. And, I could because when I took those pictures, the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to send them to her.
Yeah.
So what I did instead is I sent them to my brother, and I was like, I really wish mom was here. And that was the way. And he was like, me too, whatever. But again, 5 years ago, if I was in that same situation, it would have been an argument because I would have just gone quiet and been kind of very standoffish. And then you would have done something, we would have gone out and you would have drank or something. And you would have been like, you never want to spend time with me. And I would have been like, I'm just struggling. Well, and then I would have gotten mad and I would have been like, you don't understand. And I'd say, my mom is dead. And then you would be like, oh God, here we go again. And it would just it would snowball into you getting drunk and me getting angry, and it would have been a just nuclear bomb going. I mean, in all honesty, it would. But now it's more so, hey, every single happy moment in our life, I'm probably going to be a little sad. You don't always have to you don't have to do anything with that. I'm just letting you know. And that's exactly what you did. You were like, oh, okay. Because you knew, you're like, she's sad, but I don't need rescuing from that. I just needed a minute to miss my mom and cry about it.
I know to leave you alone and let you, if you need something, you're going to ask me. So
So it's more so just recognizing that, oh, I'm really sad right now. It's because I miss my mom. I'm grieving my mom.
100%.
And I don't need you to hold me and tell me, I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to recognize that, that's why I have tears in my eyes. I'm fine, but I need this moment. And it was completely fine. So again, I know that's a long ramble, but that's a small example. You can really apply that to anything.
Yeah.
And so,
well, it's just you work, we work a so-called program, right? For sobriety. Everybody's, however it looks, is different. Your mental health is the same way.
Yeah.
It's a constant work literally every day, no matter what it is, how you practice it, whether it be yoga, meditation, journaling, doing shit on your phone, therapy. There's so many different ways to work on your mental health. It's finding what works for you, just like sobriety.
Yeah, something that I and again, don't always do this because you and I get caught watching TV and stuff, but we're not bad about it. Is my mental health better when I get a full night's sleep?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, as
Seems like
stupid as that sounds.
It makes life 100%
If
better no matter what you're doing.
If I don't get much sleep or I don't sleep well,
you're off.
I am in such a fucking bad mood the whole day. And again, it doesn't mean that I'm like, well, I didn't sleep well last night, so I can just be a fucking bitch.
That's
like,
right.
no. But I also don't have to be like happy-go-lucky, let's go and, ride off into the sunset. Like, I can just be like, I did not sleep well or I didn't get much sleep, so I just don't feel like doing anything today.
Yeah. And it seems like we all have those days.
Right.
I have those days too. It's just,
and my program is really, honestly, therapy is what's helped me the most. I have to have someone who is unbiased listen to me and talk to me, because, and this is a lot of trauma that I'm not going to go into, but when someone tells me how I feel or what to do, then I get stuck in this black hole of not knowing what I want or feel versus what someone else has told me I want or feel. And then I do nothing. And that's when I end up going, I'm just going to do nothing. And it's like, why? Because I don't know if I am feeling this because I'm feeling this or because you told me I'm feeling this. And now I'm confused. And so I'm just going to do nothing.
Yeah.
Statue face.
That's right.
Sit
here still and not do a damn thing. Quit telling me what to do.
And listen,
don't touch my things.
That's kind of my default a lot of the times. Is you're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing.
Nothing.
They're like, don't you have a lot to do? Yep.
I'll get to it at some point.
Why aren't you doing it? I don't know. We'll go do it. I can't. Why? I don't know.
and what was funny was we've joked on the podcast so many times about we always take like quick trips and stuff like that because we can drive anywhere from where we live. And you told me when we got back from this quick trip we had for Lily's birthday, you said, "Oh my God, I got this life hack," because I always tease you about your luggage. I
have the best life hack in the world.
And I said, well, I kind of knew where you were going with it, which is hilarious. So what we do is we take our suitcases and we always throw our shit in the corner, our dirty laundry. And we always put it in bags when we leave.
Which is so stupid.
And you came up with this idea this time, was like, hey, I'm going to take all our dirty stuff. I think you said, which pile is bigger?
I said, which suitcase
clean
is
stuff
bigger?
And we're like, oh, your suitcase. So you throw all the dirty shit in there and we put all the clean stuff in mine. Which was brilliant because, as Jessica has learned, and when I get home, the first thing I do is unpack all my clean clothes and I put them away.
Everything.
And I start laundry.
Too much. No, like so you do all the laundry, all the dishes.
Both bags were unpacked within an hour of us being home, which is hilarious.
The initial thought was, okay, and
it took a long time for you to learn
this is a prime example of like how many steps is this? Because there is no such thing as a one step in my life. Nothing in my life is one step. Nothing. Okay. So we're on vacation and we've talked about this too. Like, I'm a very different person on vacation than I am at home. I am very responsible and organized and clean and all. Like, I'm not a slob. But on vacation, because it's not my space and I don't know where everything is, like, I fold my clothes and put it in drawers. I hang it up. I have all my stuff together. And that's because I want to be able to grab and go. I don't want to be searching for things because then I get stuck in an ADHD spiral and I'm like, I'm not leaving the hotel room. You go without me. So, and I do the same thing when we pack up. The night before we leave, I pack everything, get it together, take a shower, like I'm on it. Because the next day I'm like, I want to be able to get up and go. So I'm doing all of that. And I'm in my head, silently, I'm like, okay, when we get home, because nothing is one step, right? Like the thinking process is 4 steps in and of itself.
Hamster wheels rolling.
Yep. And so I was like, when we get home, rather than trying to, figure this jigsaw puzzle of dirty versus clean, why don't we just put all of the dirty laundry in one suitcase? And in my head, I'm like, that way we pull in, we take the suitcase, we roll it into the laundry room, boom, dirty.
Done. Yep.
And then the other one, we'll put our clean stuff in. And so I look and I'm like, Ryan, I think your clean stuff that you have left over and mine will all fit in one suitcase. So I'm going to do that. And then that way, when we get home, roll it into the bedroom. Boom, done. Okay. So I do that. And that's where it was going to end, is I was like, that way they're in their spaces where they belong. And then in true Ryan form, he's like, I got to sweep and I got to mop and I got to do the dishes and I got to do the laundry and I got to fold and I got to, like, it's like, I'm like, please fucking slow down. And so you do the laundry or whatever, and you go in and you unpack the suitcase and you put my stuff. It's still folded, but it's on the edge of the bed and you had to go somewhere or something. So you left it, right?
Yes.
Which is another thing I can't do. So I just don't do things because I'm like, if I can only get halfway through it, there's no point in even starting, right? So I walked into the room and I had a pile of hang up and a pile of fold, which is the way that I pack. God, my OCD is like showing. Like, if you ever am wondering what OCD looks like, this is it. So when I'm packing my suitcase, I'm like, this is everything that goes in a drawer and this is everything that goes on hangers. So when I get home, again, nothing is one step.
That's
when
right.
I get home, I can put this stuff here and I just put it in the drawer, and then I have this stuff and that's all hang up and it's like separated. So that makes sense in my world somehow. So I see it on the edge of the bed and I'm like, that's all stuff that goes in the drawer. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and throw that in the drawer. And then I only had like 4 shirts or something. And I was like, I don't like them being on the edge of the bed like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and hang them up. And so I hung them up, and then I was like, I know I said there's not a light bulb, but it was like, bing. And so you were on the couch and I walked outside with this like glazed look in my eyes, and I was
world
like,
has changed.
I was like, oh my God, I have found the ultimate life
That's
hack
right.
for the suitcase. You were like, okay, what? I was like, just put all the clean shit together, because guess what you do when you come home? You unload the suitcase. And you were just like,
and now we have
okay.
shared it with thousands upon thousands of people.
But here's the thing. Here's the best part. There was something else I didn't realize. You hate things being left out so much that you were like, you said to me, okay, you said this. You never should have said it, but you did. You said, I was just going to put your stuff up for you. You just got to it before me. So in the event that I get home and I don't have, the oomph to put it up, you'll get so pissed that it's there that you'll just put it up for me.
Yeah, whatever. That's
so everybody wins. Now, I know we have to go, but I want you to understand that is how everything I've said is how my brain works. How many steps was that? The packing, all the thing.
I live
right.
with it. I know.
For you would have said that story like, yeah, like we separated out, dirty, clean, one in one, one in the other, and we got home and
that's it.
Put the clothes away.
Boom. Clothes are put away.
Never could be my life. That could never be my life. By the time I moved to do the thing, I'm fucking exhausted. Yeah. I have worn myself out already.
Oh, Lord.
The moral of the story is go to therapy and put your clean shit in your partner's. Marry someone who's type A.
Yeah, there you go. Opposites attract.
I know.
Anyway, great show today.
Welcome to the Jessica Show.
Yes. Mental health challenge will be out.
It will be coming out the beginning of March. I have some really good stuff. I'm going to be doing it with you. I'm going to be posting everything.
SAFpodcast.com is where you find everything.
And it is not a fitness challenge at all. Yes. So.
And we have got some extremely awesome guests coming up here in the next few months. So make sure you stay tuned on that. Obviously, we put out who's coming out on our show every Monday on Instagram, so make sure you're following us on there.
My hair is really shiny today, too. I just wanted to say that.
That's awesome.
I'm like living my best life over here.
Let's go get your nails done.
I do need to get my nails done. Okay, I got to go.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Bye.
If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
and hit that notification bell to get notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby. Word.